welcome to Digital Marketing This Week. It is episode 51. We're calling this one Ad Blockers, Buyable Pins, and Customer Match. Of course, this is all brought to you by Seriously Simple Marketing over at seriouslysimplemarketing.com. My name is Chris Mercer, all about analytics and optimization, content development over at seriouslysimplemarketing.com, and of course, the host of Digital Marketing This Week. And I just go by Mercer. So if you happen to see me passing in different conferences or just want to get my attention, just scream out Mercer. That's how you find me. Okay, so let's talk about first how to get on the Insiders Club for digital marketing this week. Now, for those who do not yet know, Digital Marketing This Week has an Insiders Club where you can ask questions. You can actually join us live. We record this in live. And so if you want to join the audience and be able to ask questions about whatever the topics are here or just anything else in general, you just need to join the Insiders. It's completely free, and you'll see how to do that over at seriouslysimplemarketing.com. And of course, if you are joining us live, just ask your question in the live chat, and we'll get to it after the main portion of the show. Okay, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on what's coming up this week. First up, I want to talk about the site called it's D Williams. I don't know if I'm actually saying that right. It's S. It almost looks like Stu Illiams, like, but ST and then STE Williams, all one word. That's how you pronounce this, or at least where you would go. But essentially, the article is kind of what's important here, and more importantly, is the topic of the article, which is all about ad blockers. Now, if you are not yet familiar, if maybe you're Android focused or you're more Google focused, Apple's made some really big strides in ad blockers, and specifically in iOS 9, which is the new iOS that came out for mobile. So now you can all of a sudden block ads. Now, curiously enough, you cannot block ads in their own apps, but you can block pretty much everybody else's. And really, this is because Apple doesn't make a ton of money on ads. They never have. That's not their model, but they figure, hey, why not? We'll go ahead and block ads and hurt Google. So I'm sure that's some of it. And of course, it's under the guise of it's a little bit better experience for the user because ads sometimes can get in the way or can just be poorly targeted and all that fun stuff. Now, what I wanted to bring this up for was because this is just yet another growing trend of ad blockers getting easier and easier to use. And it used to be, this is pretty similar to pop-up blockers back in the early 90s when the internet was first come around, right in the mid 90s, you've got lots of pop-ups, and pop-ups are really annoying. And then they would take pop-ups over pop-ups over pop-ups, and you had to have pop-up blockers, and technical individuals could find these pop-up blockers and install them. And then they pretty much became standard, and browsers started making them standard. And then pop-ups evolved into something that weren't quite as obnoxious as they once were. And so that's kind of what I think is going to happen with ads personally. Again, my personal opinion, but that's what I see the trend going is ad blocking software is now hitting the stage where it used to be, I mean, technically you could do this for years with ad blocker software, but you probably are more technically inclined and able to find those extensions and things like that to make sure that you're installing the right things on your browser to keep ads from showing. Now browsers are doing it on their own. Firefox does stuff like this. Safari now does stuff like this. It's not going to be long till other browsers are sort of following suit. And so what we are looking at is from a marketing standpoint going, okay, well, it's going to be harder and harder to have ads seen. And when I say ads, I really mean display ads. That's really what's affecting most of this is the display ads. You're still going to be able to do native advertising. That's not going to be stripped away because that kind of looks like content. It looks like content to the user. It kind of looks like content, and it definitely looks like content to the little programs that are trying to strip out all these ads or block these ads. So if you're doing Facebook, stuff like that, not a problem. I don't think you have anything to worry about. But if you're doing a lot of display ads and that's kind of your main gist, you might have some issues, at least for a little while. So consider diversifying your advertising spend and learning some of these other like things like native advertising, on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and places like that, doing maybe more search ads, things along those lines, because obviously search ads are not going to be stripped because they're not technically display ads that are popping up. But the things like, MSN, maybe Outbrain could be stripped. If you're going to like a CNN homepage and you see all the different ads, all those would go away. So that sort of stuff is what we're talking about. So the long and the short of this is something that's going to become easier and easier and easier to do. The technology, I believe, the ad server technology will actually, when it comes to these ad networks, they're not going to go away. There's going to be ads. They're just going to figure out a different way to deliver the ads to get around all of these pop-up or these ad blockers. So I think that's going to happen, but it's going to take some time. So for now, it's just going to be why don't you diversify in some other areas if you haven't already? If you already are in those areas and you're not really doing display, yeah, you can play around with display, but ad blocking is going to become more prevalent. I think it'll become a pain. But again, the ad networks will evolve the technology on their end to get around the blockers, and the whole cat and mouse game will continue. So, but for more details on the iOS specifically, because when Apple does it, it becomes a major thing. It always is. So if you want to read more about this, we've got links, of course, in the show notes. Next up, this is AdWords particularly. So if you're doing AdWords, Google's doing something very, very interesting, and it's playing a bit of a game of catch up with Facebook, sort of. They've probably had this capability for a long, long time, but now they're just releasing it. And what this capability is the ability to add lists to Google to remarket specific audiences. So with Facebook, for a while, you've been able to upload your emails of your leads or upload emails of your customers and say, I want to find more people like this. Then you create lookalike audiences, they call them. Well, with Google AdWords, you haven't been able to do that. You can retarget through pixels, but that's really it. Coming soon, and this is probably within the next month of from now, so over the next few weeks, you're going to see this in your AdWords account. You're going to be able to upload a email list, and it's a very specific format. So it's not what you're thinking with Facebook. With Facebook, you kind of upload the emails kind of naked, right? So it's actually, email at email.com. With Google, they needed privacy. They want to make sure that you're maintaining the privacy of the client. They want to make sure they can't see personally identifiable information. They're paranoid about that, as they should be, because people are always out there trying to peg privacy concerns. So what they ask you to do is something called hashing the email, and you can find more about how to do all this stuff in the link that we're going to give you in the show notes. It'll take you to AdWords page, and you'll see exactly how to go about doing that. But essentially, all that does is just sort of scramble the email into a meaningful gobbledygook that doesn't look like anything to anybody, but the machines know who it is, and they can translate the email back and forth from email at email.com to some 60-digit number and then back. So that's kind of what it does. But it maintains privacy, keeps everybody happy. So it is that necessary step. But you're going to be able to upload your buyers list, and then you can remarket specifically to those buyers. So see our program that they're a part of, and you know that they're a part of that. You can upload that list and then retarget. Say, hey, frequent buyers, it's the Friday special, and here's the exact offer to the exact audience that you want. It's going to be incredibly powerful. It's something to definitely look at if you're doing AdWords. Make sure you are looking at something called customer match, because that's where it is. And then true to form, like they're doing with Facebook lookalike audiences, Google will create a similar audience, they're calling it, I believe. And the similar audiences are essentially the same thing as lookalike audiences. It'll be based on the buyers, kind of getting a general idea of what the profile is going to be, and then applying that as an audience. So something to take a look at is this new customer match over at Google AdWords. Next up is something that we're kind of keeping an eye at. This is over at Marketing Land. Our friends over at Marketing Land created this post, and this is just a little research on Pinterest. Now, Pinterest is allowing people to do buyable pins, right? So they're trying to get in the ad game too, as is everybody. It makes sense. It's another vehicle for native ads, right? So this is a good thing to take a look at. And they've been experimenting with some brands. So at this point, big brands are spending, and you sort of have to be invited to this program to play with it. But it seems to be that the brands are getting lots of new buyers. So they like it. The press is pretty good on this so far. I would expect this is going to start coming down to the rest of us relatively soon, hopefully even sometime this year. But if not, then early next year. So I would look to this. But think about Pinterest, especially if you're targeting female demographic, because most of Pinterest is females at this point. But anything that's highly visual would also work. So there's lots of guys out there that are tracking different fashion or cars or anything like that. Anything that really is conducive to pictures would be something to take a look at. And this article is really, really well done. It's got lots of different examples of how different brands are using it, and the actual buyable pins where you can see, and there's a little buy button on the pin itself where you click on buy and it goes right to the place to buy it. So it can be a pretty good advertising vehicle if you're in e-commerce, or again, if your product is conducive to this. So take a look at that, at this article over at Marketing Land. Again, great to take a look at and think about how you might be using Pinterest in the not so distant future as they allow buyable pins to be bought by the rest of us. Finally, let's talk about KISSmetrics. Now, KISSmetrics is a great site on analytics and optimization and all sorts of fun little tactics. In particular, this article we wanted to bring up, again, recent article around security. Now, security and trust is a big deal. And from an optimization standpoint, it's always good to make sure that you've got everything secure. This article was really good because it was an overview of that all. We're constantly kind of talking about security, one thing you want to keep in mind is um, just for optimization. And I'll give you just kind of a real quick tour of this article. And again, this article is long; it's worth it to go through it. And we'll have links in the show notes, of course. But when they talk about, going through and making sure your URLs are secure, any sort of WordPress plugins, payment verification, obviously, if you're taking credit card data, ideally you're not. You're using shopping cart for that, like Infusionsoft or One Shopping Cart or something along those lines. Making sure passwords are secure. There's lots of different things that are involved with security overall, right? In addition to just the optimization end. But the one that they sort of missed on here that I would say is almost the biggest one from a marketing standpoint is SSL, right? Making something, getting an SSL cert, a secure certificate, so that your site can be secure. And if you're watching our video here, it basically is talking when anything that says HTTPS on the URL is secure, and it should show up green with a nice little lock on it. Depending upon your browser, that might be slightly different, but basically it's a visual cue that this is a secure encrypted site, so that nobody else can pry into what you're doing. And this is a signal to Google, and Google will make this more and more of a signal that will be positive in terms of search engine rankings. So if your blog is secure, maybe not now, but in the near future, over the next year or so, if your blog is secure, it will rank higher than a blog that is not secure, where the pages are not secure. So ultimately, I see the entire internet going secure. That'll just be sort of standard, and unsecure pages will be a thing of the past. So the sooner that you sort of look into this, the better it will be. And again, if you're just small starting out, you're trying to figure out how to do your sales funnel or what copy to write, forget it. Don't worry about security at all. Like as far as getting an SSL certificate, that is. Obviously, you want to make sure your WordPress sites are secure and all that, but just make sure that you don't need to worry about an SSL certificate. But if you've kind of got the stuff figured out, you're doing a decent amount of business, and you're bringing in some SEO traffic where you've got a nice little blog that's got some traffic, or you want it to rank a little bit higher, it's potentially something you want to take a look at. So again, getting an SSL security cert to help with that, and then go through this article from KISSmetrics, because it is really, really great. Again, talking about all these different possible ways that you can improve your site security. And a little bit of prevention goes a long, long way when it comes to security. So take a look at that. With that, I think we're actually going to come to an end of this particular episode of Digital Marketing This Week.